Welcome to Sense Style. I'm Stuart. One of the things I love about the internet is looking at old pictures and video of how people used to be and how they look. If you look at someone from 100 years ago, they're all a lot thinner, and also they all look so much older because times have changed. Life has gotten easier. It's also gotten more complex. I think we are maturing later, and I think the old 30, that used to be when you made the transition into like hardcore adulthood. Now I think it's closer to 40. 40 is now the time that you buy a home, you're partnered up, you've got maybe a kid or two, and you've got a really good job that pays the bills. And with that comes a change in values. What you focus your time on, what you drive, what you wear, and even what you wear in terms of fragrances, that is going to seriously change when you're looking at the life after 40. I have 8 fragrances that are definitely leaning more mature, 40 and up. Fragrance number 1 is Guerlain L'Homme Idéal Eau de Parfum, and this is generally thought to be a popular fragrance overall. But one look at the pros and cons list on Fragrantica, I see 3 criticisms that, are definitely coming from a younger demographic. The first one is it's not quite sweet enough. Yeah, that's definitely coming from the young guys. Then the second one, it talks about powderiness as a negative. Now, powderiness to me equates with sophistication. That again, that's something that's valued by an older demographic, not a younger one. And then finally, that goes along with that is the fact that the projection is criticized. Now, this has moderate projection. It certainly projects plenty for me, but it doesn't have the beast mode projection that you get with a lot of modern clones that appeal to a younger demographic. So that's the third criticism. This definitely leans over 40, but the great thing about it is it's modern. It's got a gourmandy feel. When you think you've got cherry, you've got almond, and there's a fair amount of vanilla here. Yeah, so that is a modern feel, but it's also got the other notes that tone it down a little bit, that make it a little bit more mature. You've got leather, you've got incense, things like that. Definitely a gorgeous fragrance. I think it's perfect if you're over 40. Very much unlike fragrance number 1, fragrance number 2 is a real dividing line fragrance between men over 40 and under 40. If you're over, you're much more likely to appreciate it. It is Prada L'Homme. And I say that because people talk about this being clean and soapy. And when was the last time you heard a 25-year-old guy wanting to smell clean and soapy? It just doesn't happen. They want to be seductive. They want to get attention. They want to be sweet. And that's totally understandable. But if you've got a mortgage to pay and you want to smell professional, this is much more the way to go. The cleanliness here comes from the florals. They're fresh. You got violet, you got geranium, you got neroli, and then you've got the iris, which is really important here. It's about as powdery as you're going to get. It's a very sophisticated scent. The performance is really solid. It is something that is perfect when you got to pay the bills. Now, further proof is this is thought to be a gentlemanly scent. And prior to my audience finding me, if I use the word gentleman in a title of my video, my views would be cut in half. But over the last, I would say 6 months, maybe a year, my demographic has gotten older and older. And now when I use the term gentleman, and this is definitely a gentlemanly fragrance, the views go up. So yeah, definitely over 40, a real classy scent. If you're like me and you like the occasional sweet scent, the best way to go is to go with a parfum that's generally tailored more to an older demographic. And I think a really good modern parfum for an older guy is Scandal Le Parfum. Definitely very, very sweet. But I compared this head to head with the EDT. I've done it many times, but I did it 2 days ago. And yeah, when you first smell this, you're going to get mad at me and go, oh, that's super sweet. I don't want to wear. Just give it time because the two are quite different after the first half an hour or so. This has a lot of geranium and sandalwood that tones down the sweetness. And then it also is more 6 hours than 4. The original, the Eau de Toilette, is definitely a 4-hour fragrance. So this one is much longer lasting and it's not quite as sweet. It's still sweet. You're still going to smell modern. And I think overall, this is a really underrated fragrance. If you compare this to the EDT, the rating is much higher on Fragrantica. And I think part of the reason is it's just better. And even if you are under 40, this is the one to buy. over the eau de toilette. And quite frankly, this is the one to buy over other geranium-based fragrances, for instance, Prada Paradigm, because I think Prada toned everything down a little bit too much. I don't think they knew what they were doing. This has a lot of geranium that gives it some freshness, but it's still ultimately a sweet fragrance. This is a very underrated scent, and it's also $30 cheaper than Paradigm. So Christmas is coming up. This is an underrated scent for men over 40. When it comes to popular designer fragrances that come out and then bomb, you always hear the same thing. You hear a lot of criticism of the fragrance community. We're called snobs, and we're always reminded of the one fragrance that people didn't like when it first came out, but they love now. That fragrance is Dior Homme 2020, but that was a very different scenario. The reason that this bombed initially was that it was a massive change and it was completely unexpected. People were expecting iris and they didn't get it. But for people like me who had already knew that it didn't have iris, I loved this immediately. This has always been brilliant. If you ask me, I think that this is the best heavy wood fragrance that there is. I absolutely love it. The only reason I don't have a bigger bottle is the price. It's important to point out that the reason Dior moved away from iris and towards a woody scent was not to appeal to a younger demographic. This is still a very sophisticated scent. As I said, a lot of woods. That is kind of a more traditional feel. There's a lot of aroma chemicals here. You're going to get cashmere and a lot of ISO-E super. There's also cedar, vetiver, and patchouli. That's 5 woody or woody-like notes. The key to this, to me, is the LME, where it gives it a little bit of fresh resin. That, along with the pink pepper, just gives it a little bit of sparkle, makes it feel sophisticated. The only problem with this fragrance, I think, is the marketing. So number one, what were they thinking? We needed to know ahead of time that there was a massive change ahead. But then I saw the tagline that they released for this fragrance. They said it smelled like raw wood. I'm sorry. This smells like the nicest, finest, beautiful, most, I don't know, sophisticated antique wood that you can possibly get. Nothing like raw wood. So yeah, the marketing department deserves some criticism, but not the Parfumer de Machy knocked it out of the park with this. Fragrance number 5 is new to my collection. This is Franck Olivier's Amber. And this is actually somewhat similar to Ombre Nuit by Dior, which is a private line fragrance. But this is incredibly inexpensive. I'm not going to call it a clone. There's too many differences here, but it's really nice in a number of different ways. For starters, if you're over 40 and you like sweet stuff like I do, amber's a much better note than vanilla or tonka, which can get very syrupy. Amber is much more reserved, but then you're also dealing with this fragrance, which has a lot of woods. So the amber quality here comes from vanilla, labdanum, and an amber note. And then the woods are vetiver, patchouli, and sandalwood. And so it's got an earthy quality. It's quite a bit of patchouli here. So think those two things. And the great thing about woody notes are it is more traditional. It is more older, more mature. You're going to moderate the projection with a woody scent. The only problem that I have here is when I first got it. I've had it for about at least 3 weeks now. The first week, I was just like, okay, this has been a bust because it smelled really plasticky. But that's the thing about buying inexpensive fragrances. It never fails. If you leave it, you let it macerate a bit. And this one, probably about 2 weeks of maceration, it got a lot better. It does not smell synthetic at all. Performance is solid, but I really like it. And it's definitely leaning over 40. Men over 40 are not big into clone fragrances. If anybody knows that, it's me. However, there are always exceptions to every rule. And I think the exceptions are discontinued fragrances that are super expensive, you can only get on eBay, that lean mature. Those are the ones, when they're cloned, really worth a purchase, and that is the case with Starman Nebula from Fragrance World. This is a clone of Thierry Mugler's Pure Malt, a fragrance that is perfect for a mature gentleman and a really good fragrance to boot. It's a little bit modern because it's got vanilla and it's got some fruit, but it's not a sweet fragrance in that way at all. It actually came out, I don't know, 20 years ago. So yeah, it's not part of the syrupy modern trends. And this thing is fantastic. The projection is good, but not crazy. The longevity is really nice as well. It's just really well done. So there's a whiskey note. There's a malt note. As I said before, a lot of fruit and vanilla. And the four together blend really nicely. Look, I've seen collections of people that are all niche and high-end designer. They all seem to have a bottle of this. Yeah, Starman Nebula. When I first got into fragrances, one of the channels I watched all the time was Dallas from Chaos Fragrances. And then one day he went off on an old school fragrance that I happen to really like. And I realized maybe I shouldn't be watching so much because he's a young guy. He's like in mid-20s, right? That fragrance was Habit Rouge. This is the EDP version. And yeah, he did not like that carnation feel. I mean, carnation is a big part of that. Old Spice has a ton of carnation in it as well. This has a fair amount. And so that, for certain young guys, will put them off. It'll smell like grandpa. I'm okay with that. I actually love this fragrance. In fact, this one is much more modern than the original that came out in 1965. In 2000, there was a big gourmand trend, and so they upped the vanilla here. So not only did you get a stronger fragrance, it's an EDP rather than EDT, you're also going to get a lot of vanilla. So you get a combination of rose, lemon, vanilla. You get a leather note as well, and then you get some warm spiciness. That's where the carnation comes in, a little bit of cinnamon. Very, very nice fragrance, but definitely not going to appeal to men under 40. And the younger, the less likely they're going to like it, but I love it. And finally, vetiver. This is Guerlain Homme Le Boisee. This is a vetiver fragrance that goes in a very different direction. This fragrance has been discontinued. That's why it's number 8, and I didn't put it higher on the list. Also, this is a tester, so I don't have a cap for it, unfortunately. But this is a lovely scent, a very clean vetiver fragrance that goes in a very different direction than normal. So Terre d'Hermès has a lot of citrus and a lot of vetiver scents. You know, it is a citrus woody, basically. This is a citrus woody too, but the citrus here, very different. It goes green. So you're going to get 4 different green notes. Lime, grass, mint, and geranium. And it does have a green feel. And I think what I pick up more than anything here is the lime, which vetiver, I mean, it is much more old school, more mature. It's clean, it's classy, moderate performance because it's basically a lot of woods. And but this one's really long lasting, very, very nice. And I just like the fact that it's different from all the other vetiver scents that I've tried. When I say vetiver, I mean vetiver heavy scents because there's a definite distinction. Vetivers in a lot of fragrances. But yeah, I do think there's a big gap, especially over the last 3 or 4 years where a lot of clones have come out and they're definitely appealing to a younger group of people. And I didn't go out to be a fragrance channel that represented men over 40 or men over 35, which seems to be my demographic. But as I said in my earlier comments, on YouTube, your audience finds you. So I just put myself out there. I do have an older audience. And anyway, thanks for watching.